strengthening your intuition and even maybe your psychic abilities.
Right.
Which I don't think we've ever actually talked about like psychic abilities specifically on the podcast, which
we did in the community. We had a psychic come on
that's right.
for one of our workshops, which was really cool.
Yes. But I think I'm definitely like intrigued by that ability to explore more. But for now, point being, the other sort of angle of why it has such an effect in what's really happening is, I think the more that you tap into and the more you put your conscious attention into this field of energy and the world beyond your five senses, that is you strengthening your intuition and your knowing and your ability to then receive more information from the field back to you. And I was telling Nikki that I feel like lately it feels like scary to say like my psychic abilities, because it has like interesting, but I'm like, no, I think I'm like having psychic moments, and it's like, in your body and it just is like this feeling and knowing and like a confirmation that kind of feels undeniable, that you're like, yeah, I literally thought that or felt that and then saw it come into form, and it's not just a coincidence. Like sometimes it's so oddly specific or so like out of nowhere that you're like, what is this? And then like the next day or whenever it happens, there's this thing that manifests and you're like, holy crap. And the point is, I think that strengthens the more you put your conscious attention into this energetic world, because at the end of the day, like that is back to that nature of who we really are and as these energy beings. So what you put your conscious attention into is what is created. The more that you're playing in that world, the more that world plays with you. So, and you become like this antenna receiver for it. And the more that you clear your channel, and I'm just like what's coming to mind is the human design body graph of like the crown center connecting to the ajna, to the throat, and like this beautiful freaking symmetry that we have in our bodies that make us we have all these abilities and gifts within us. And this is one of those ways to like tune your vessel to tap into those powers. And yeah, like it's that same game of, if you believe it, you'll see it. And if you put your attention on it, it will grow. And that's a cool, exciting thing, is that the more that you practice and commit to this, because there's a period where it's uncomfortable and there's like sort of the discipline of like sitting down to do it and sitting through the first 10 minutes of the silent meditation where your mind is just like chattering. But it is so worth it, because it's this big picture process of becoming more of who you really are, and then watching all of your power. You become superhuman. And like you tap into those limitless abilities that we truly all have when you use a method or a practice or a tool like this.
You saying the mind chatter part reminded me of something that I want to share with you guys. When you're doing any sort of meditation, don't think in your head that you're not doing it right. If you like have your awareness floating above you and you feel like you're in this black space of just like infinite possibility, and then all of a sudden you have a thought pop in your head where you like return back into your body, it's about changing the way you relate to that chatter. It's not so much like clenching your fist and forcing yourself not to have a thought. It's the process of just like, oh, okay, no, I can actually just like jump right back. And it's that easy. It's not like you have to do the whole process again. Like if you allow yourself to just notice the thought, oh my goodness, okay, here's a thought about what I have to do today. Beautiful. Go back in. And you just bounce right back. It's like literally like a launch pad. And once you set yourself up in the beginning of the meditation to like really do it full force, the launching back and forth is like, it can be very seamless. And you can just change the way you relate to that chatter. And then the crazy part is, once you start to change the way you relate to it, is when the switch happens.
Right.
And all of a sudden it's like, it's not even registering with you to have a thought, because you're so in the other dimension,
right,
that the mind is like not even present.
Right. Yeah. It's good to point out that it does take sort of an element of like practice and surrender. Yeah. But even just seeing that, like,
practice.
Because I remember when I was I learned a lot of the like knowledge base that I acquired came from my mentor, Jennifer Edition, as she goes by now. And I at first was like, she would teach and tell me how she's doing things, and I'll be like, damn, I really want to do that, but I'm not doing it yet. And I remember she was saying, like, it just takes practice. Like, you're going to get better at it. And the reason for that is because we are these energetic but also physical vessels, and it takes time to attune and to clear energy out and release things. And the thing is, like, I remember a year ago setting an intention of like, I want to strengthen my intuition. I want to become more intuitive and to like really take this up a notch. And I just trusted that doing the practices, sitting to meditate, opening my channel, studying if I needed to, like all those things would build up over time. And now I'm like, a year later, I'm like, oh my gosh, I like did like it is truly so strong. And it's like wild, like, cause I remember having that feeling of like, am I not intuitive? Like, am I doing this bad or whatever?
Right.
And I just kept going. And it's like, no, it really starts to develop and build. And one day you have like just enough of those moments that you're like, okay, this is actually happening.
Right. And it also is like the practice of, I think it's very easy to like listen to a podcast like this and then try to like intellectualize it when you're sitting down and you're thinking about the how-to, when the how-to is letting go.
Yeah.
And of course there's techniques you can use, like seeing your body, zooming out, the heart coherence. Like these are practices of like jumping into a medium where you let go. And it's just that constant practice of like letting go that allows the mind to kind of like melt and your soul begins to take a front seat.
Right.
And that takes practice. And then also like maybe you just need to acquire a little bit more information to lead to the letting go.
Yeah. To
so
like expand your mind.
Right. Because once you're in that, like now, for example, when you're meditating and a thought comes up, it's no longer like, oh, I'm not supposed to be having that thought. It's like, let's bounce. I'm a basketball. Let's go from here to here. We're going straight back. Okay. I want to hang out in this thought a little more. Great. Right. Ooh, I was just hanging out in the thought for a full 2 minutes. Great. We're bouncing back.
Yeah.
It's not like this like charged process of like forcing yourself to do it in a way that is right. It just is. And I think removing the expectation is also a very powerful practice.
Totally. Yes. And that's where the trust element comes in too, because actually one of the recent experiences I had that really kind of solidified my like trust in my channel, if you will, was in client sessions with human design readings. I'll do a channeled reading portion and I like open my channel, I tune into this person's energy, their soul, and then I just speak through what I'm seeing and feeling. And I still have sometimes that voice of doubt that like I get a visual and I'm like, am I just making this up type of thing? And I had an experience last week where I like was communicating what I was seeing, and I had this visual of her in a white dress like running through this field, and I was like, okay, like what if this is like random? Okay, whatever. I just said it. So I trusted that it was coming through for a reason. And then she ended up telling me that whenever she pictures her highest self, she sees herself in a freaking white flowing dress. And to be clear, I have never said that visual before. It has never come through in a channeled reading for someone.
There you go.
And I was like, imagine if I didn't say that, because I let my little doubt whisper be like, that's silly, don't say that.
Yes.
Like I had to trust that I was in that I was receiving, that it was going to flow and be meant, that it's going to land the way it's meant to land. And it was like big for her. She was like, wow, like that was really beautiful to see that and have you reflect it back. And I was like,
yeah, because imagine that verifies it for her.
Yes.
Like that you're like, feeling into a reality.
Real.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's like, Jenny did a post the other day how she just had this like intuitive hit to reach out to a friend that she hasn't spoken to in a while and send them a voice note of encouragement. And then it ended up being that girl had just launched a podcast and was asking for a sign of encouragement. Did you see this post?
No.
How freaking crazy is that?
Well, actually, now I remember she told me, I was catching up with her on FaceTime and she was telling me how she's been leaving her comfort zone because she's been getting guidance to send people, quote unquote, unsolicited like voice notes.
Oh.
And we were talking about how as a projector, I was like telling her, I was like, oh, it's interesting with the invitation energy. But then we were realizing that she's getting the energetic invitation by that person putting out into the field that they want to receive this thing.
Like that girl asked for a sign.
Yes, she asked for a sign. And because Jenny is tuned the F in.
Invitations.
And that's her invitation. because
Yeah.
she's so tapped into the field.
And
that,
I would
like-
argue that a projector is actually like the only one that would be able to like, not the only one, but it would be like energetically more aligned for her to send that message to
Totally.
someone because she was able to receive the invitation.
Right. And exactly. Like, yeah, that was crazy.
Projectors need an invitation, right?
Yes, that's
the
it.
little
It's-
explanation
yeah.
for human design
It's
if you're
like
a projector.
for like, it tends to be for sort of bigger life decisions in general too, is that your strategy of making things happen is to be invited. And the reason behind that, which I'll just explain in like 30 seconds, is that energetically you want the person who is going to receive your gifts to want them, because you are seeing energy and their energy in such a specific way because of your open sacral, that you want to be giving it to someone that wants to receive it. And so, yeah, generally it's this idea of like not always initiating and to wait for other people, things, signs, whatever energies to like pull you into the situation.